Hi, welcome to the Yarn and Yarns YouTube channel. My name is Angela and all the places you can find me on the internet should be linked down below. I'm most active over on Instagram, where you'll find me as Rainbow Ange and Yarn and Yarns. Rainbow Ange tends to be my personal knitting creativity, and Yarn and Yarns, the same name as the channel, is the business side of my online life. I run a small yarn shop in South Wales in the UK. Here on the channel you'll find me chatting about my adventures in knitting and crochet and spinning for the most part. Sometimes there's peppered in a few other creative things if the fancy has taken me that week. Thanks so much as always for joining me, whether it's your first time or you have been here multiple times. I always appreciate everyone who takes a little bit of time out of their week to spend it with me. We have had a few new subscribers this week, so a very big welcome to anyone who is here for the first time. I don't know if any others of you out there make videos for YouTube, but I find YouTube a bit strange sometimes. Every now and then I get notifications that I've got a new subscriber, and then sometimes I log on and the subscriber numbers have jumped up by a few and I haven't received any notifications. So sometimes I don't know who has come along to join us. But if you are new and you fancy leaving a comment and just introducing yourself below, I'm always happy to chat with fellow yarn and fibre addicts. Before I get into the content proper, and this week I do have knitting, crochet and spinning, I just wanted to do a couple of admin things, I guess. The first thing is that in my last episode like this, I think there have been a couple of other videos in between that I popped up here on the channel. I mentioned that I darned some socks for the Finally Fix It cow, which is being run by Mars of Hey Brown Berry. And I wasn't sure whether that cow had ended. I knew it started earlier on in the year, or whether it was still going. Mars very kindly commented to let me know that the cow runs until the 1st of July. So if you have any projects out there that need adjusting, fixing, mending in any way, then hop on over to the Hey Brown Berry Ravelry group and you can join in the fixing fun. I also wanted to let you know in advance that I won't be recording an episode next week. My usual recording schedule is a Sunday, and later on this week we will be travelling up to Yorkshire for a couple of days. We will be remembering and saying goodbye to someone who was very dear to us. I will be travelling back home on the Sunday, but even if I have the physical energy, I probably won't have the emotional energy to record next week. So there won't be an episode like this next week. I am hoping to put up a Diary of a Yarn Shop owner video instead. So hopefully at some point in the next few days I can get one of those recorded. So there may be a little bit of content up next week. But if I do go missing, then that's the explanation, really. I think that's everything that I wanted to tell you. I'm not very good at writing these things down, and I just have to rely on my memory, which sometimes there's so much stuff crammed in my head that I don't always think of everything that I wanted to say until I switch off and upload the video. Probably should get better at just making a note of the things that I want to chat to you about. I'm going to start this week with a bit of crochet because I didn't have any crochet last week, and I have a finished object and a work in progress in my crochet section this week. So I think I'll start with my work in progress because it's just a tiny wee little thing, and I have been inspired by Kim, who is Blue Cherub. Hi Kim. And Linny, who is Candy Goth, and they have both recently been making some really cute little amigurumi toys. And I think I was sat watching one of Kim's videos up here in my craft room earlier on this week, and it occurred to me that I hadn't actually had a go at crocheting with any of the hand spun samples that I've been making. I've done a few knitted samples. If you've been following me for a while, you'll have seen some little gnomes pop up here and there. And I'm also working on a shawl from some of my hand spun yarn at the moment. But yeah, as for crochet, I hadn't given it a go. And I had a look in some of my amigurumi books that I have in my library here at home. That sounds very grand. When I say library, I mean my little collection of books. I've got some here on the shelf behind me, and then there's some more up there over on the shelf. I don't live in some grand country house with a library room, sadly. Maybe one day. Anyway, in all of those amigurumi books, there wasn't anything. There were a couple of things that took my fancy, but the things that I was feeling attracted to were slightly larger projects than the quantity of yarn that I had available. So in the end, I decided to crochet a little bird. I was contacted, I think last week, by a lovely lady on Instagram called Esmeralda, and I'll put her Instagram handle down below. And she let me know that she is collecting lots of birds for a festival over in the Netherlands, and they're trying to create a really long line of made birds. And I think you can make a bird using any craft, so knitting, crochet, felting, anything you like, as long as it's within their size limits. So I had a little trawl through Ravelry, and I found the spring bird pattern, which is a free pattern on Ravelry, and again you'll find the link in the description box below. So I crocheted up my little version of a spring bird from some of my hand spun yarn. So he's quite cute, isn't he? So the main yarn was some little samples of fibre that I was given by a lovely lady from whom I purchased a drop spindle when I was travelling in New Zealand last year. And along with the spindle, she gave me a few bumps of fibre. And I finally got round to spinning them up. I didn't spin them while we were actually in New Zealand because another one of my friends gifted me some beautiful Ashford fibre, which I started spinning on the spindle that I purchased. So these just came home with me, and this year I've been trying to work through some of the little bumps and samples of fibre as part of Emma, who is Eldenwood Crafts. She is hosting a Make 9 along this year. So I set myself a goal of spinning up a bunch of the little bits of fibre. So I think this is probably New Zealand Merino, but I'm not 100% sure. And I was given 3 bumps of fibre in blue, a sort of burgundy colour and a rust. I spun them all up and plied them together, and this is the yarn that I produced. I had a little bit more of the blue fibre than the rest. So the main body is a 3-ply, and then the wings are a 2-ply, so I plied together what I had left of the blue after I finished 3-plying. So yeah, and it was just enough quantity to make this little bird. Somewhere, I'm sitting on it. That is all I had left. I think I had about 30 metres or so to start with, so that's all I had left in the 3-ply, and then I think I only had like 5 or 6 metres of this blue, so I only just had enough, but it turned out to be pretty much the perfect quantity for this little bird. The original pattern leaves a hanging loop, and this little bird is going to be just a little shelf sitter. So this one is not going to go off to Esmeralda because selfishly this fibre is such a nice memory of my trip to New Zealand. I've decided to keep this one for myself, but I thought it would be a good practice for this pattern. Next week, when I do travel up to Yorkshire, I want to take a couple of projects with me because there will be some downtime, but my making is quite an emotional outlet for me, and I love all of my existing works in progress. And I don't know if this is going to sound funny or if maybe you can relate, but I don't want to work any of my sadness and grief into any of the projects that will be staying with me. So I decided I would do some making for charity in the couple of days that I will be away. And these little birds, once they've been at the festival, they will be given to a few different charities, is my understanding. So I'm going to make a couple more of these, not out of my hand spun, but I'm going to have a go with these two yarns. I was given these by my local Rowan rep. So I've got a skein of Alpaca Classic, which I think will make a fun sort of fuzzy bird. Hopefully this will be okay to crochet with. And then this Cozy Merino, which is almost got a sort of boucle kind of texture to it. So I thought these might be quite fun to crochet up into a couple of birds to send off to Esmeralda. If you hop on over to her Instagram, if you fancy making a bird or two yourself, then I'm sure if you send her a message, she would be happy to let you know where the birds need to be sent to. They do need to be in by the end of May. And they do need to go over to the Netherlands. So if you are fancying making something for that little project, then just bear those dates in mind, and obviously leave yourself enough time for those birds to travel from wherever you are. This week in my making, I have been trying to concentrate on my oldest works in progress, which has been, for the first time, a little bit frustrating. So apologies if you have followed me for a while, because you have heard me say this before, but at the beginning of this year I decided to alternate. So I have a lot of works in progress. That is just how I enjoy making, and so I decided, in order to try and balance my making life and not just concentrate on all the new shinies and keep casting on, I was going to alternate between 1 week working on my oldest works in progress and the next week working on whatever I fancied, whether that be new cast-ons or new projects, or carrying on with their old projects if they had sparked my enthusiasm again. But for the first time this week, I found working on my older projects frustrating. I think that's just because during my cast-on party over Easter, I cast on some projects that I'm super enthusiastic about, and I just keep feeling myself being pulled towards those. But I am pleased with myself. I stuck to it, and I made some significant progress on both my oldest crochet whip and also my oldest knitting whip. So my oldest crochet whip is a tunic that I'm making for myself, and the pattern is a Stylecraft pattern. It's number 9294. So this is the pattern that I am making up, and I have finished the front. I had not long started the front, trying to find the right piece. Last time I showed this, I forgot to put a marker in, but I think I had done the bottom border. There's a slightly different pattern on the bottom of the tunic as opposed to the main body, and I think maybe I was somewhere around here. Forgot to put a marker in though. But I have finished one side of the front. As you can see, I've split for the neck shaping, and I am just about to start the neck shaping on the other side. So there's only really a few rows to go to get this done, the front piece. So I'm really pleased with that, because it represents, from obviously from down here somewhere to here is a fair bit of work. I have been working on this a lot at the shop this week, because I sell this yarn in my shop. This is Stylecraft Batik Elements, which is a wool acrylic blend, and the colourway I'm using is called Iron, which is 930. So that's the Batik Elements label, and this is what the yarn looks like once it has been caked up. This yarn comes in balls, so you don't really need to cake it, but I like to cake my yarn just for ease of it sitting on the table in front of me, and also I can deal with any factory knots before I start my work. So yeah, I am feeling pretty happy. This project, I forgot to look on Ravelry, but I think I started it the autumn before last, so it's probably been on the hook for about 18 months. So yeah, I think I will probably, once I've finished recording this, before I start working on some of my newer projects, which is what I am allowing myself to do this week, I might just put in the effort to add those extra few rows and get the fronts finished, and then it's just the sleeves to go. I've never actually crocheted myself a garment before. I'm a little bit worried about the fit. It looks pretty wide but pretty short. When I hold it up against me, kind of seems okay, but until I get it all seamed up, I'm not going to know for sure. I've been keeping that in a lovely tote bag that was sent to me by my friend Lisa, and let me just hold this up for you. No gain, no gain, and that fits that project in perfectly. So there's a chance that that may get a little bit of work on this week, because I'm going to take it back to the shop with me. On to spinning. I've done a lot of spinning since I last recorded an episode like this. I'm definitely spinning obsessed. I am loving my drop spindles. So this week was a week to work on my Llanwenog fibre, which is one of my oldest spins on the spindle. And I am so happy that I managed to spin up half of what is left of my original Llanwenog fibre. This is a lovely Welsh breed. I really remembered to make a note, and I think the producer is called Pure Welsh, and she has a flock of Llanwenogs and something else which I can't remember offhand. That's really bad, isn't it? Again, I think I've now got a link to the website, so I'll pop that down below if you're interested. I picked up some more of this fibre at Wonderwall this year. However, the prep of the fibre is slightly different, so I'm not sure if I'm going to get the same sort of yarn, but I'm spinning this up and knitting it into a shawl. But yes, this is half of the fibre that I've got left. I've been two-plying this fibre once it's spun, so next time I work on my older spin I can get cracking on that second half, and hopefully get this all spun up and plied together, so that I know exactly how far I'm going to get through that shawl. My other spins, I have been working my way through the basket of fibre that I wanted to get through this year, and I'm really excited because I am well over halfway through. I've only got a few bumps of fibre in the scheme of things left, but I've been spinning up some of the oldest fibre in my stash, fibre that I purchased before I even knew spinning was a thing, and I don't know much about it. They've got little labels on the front of the bumps. All the bumps are about 10-15 grams each, and it just says hand dyed fibre, blue face Leicester fibre by Carol Webb, and I purchased it many moons ago. I think I was on a trip to the New Forest and we just happened upon a shop that had products from, you know, local artists and artisans, and I picked up this fibre because I thought it might be fun to felt, but I never got round to it, and it's been perfectly lovely for spinning. So I have one finished yarn and one yarn waiting to be plied. So this is the yarn waiting to be plied. It was a lovely bump of sort of peachy, yellowy blue face Leicester. So this just needs to be plied together. I'm going to do this in a 2-ply. This was 12 grams of fibre, so I probably won't get tons of meterage, but I've already spun up a very similar colour in the same fibre, and I have plans to make a gnome from this, and I probably will need both lots to make the gnome I have in mind. And then I have a larger quantity of fibre that I've spun and plied together from 2 hanks of different blue dyes. So I had one, they were both 12 grams each of fibre, and I had one blue that was slightly darker and the other was slightly paler, so I just decided to get a larger quantity of yarn to spin those both up and then ply them together. And I'm super pleased with this spin. I'm still not super consistent, but this yarn, oh, it's so lovely and bouncy and springy. I really am enjoying spinning with this blue face Leicester, and this might be my most consistent spin yet. There are still sort of thick and thin bits, but it's definitely a yarn that I am proud of, that is for sure. I haven't yet calculated how many metres of fibre I've produced, but Emma of Eldenwood Craft left me a comment on the last video when I was chatting about spinning to ask me how I know how much yarn I've spun up, and I thought maybe others of you who aren't spinners might be interested to know the answer to that question as well. So once I've spun and plied up my yarn, I wind it around this contraption which is called a niddy noddy. Now this is a handmade niddy noddy, and it was given to me by a lovely lady whose mother had sadly passed away, but this was in her stash and I treasure this niddy noddy. It is a beautiful thing, very rustic, obviously handmade. I love it. So what I do is you wind the yarn around the niddy noddy to get it into skein form. And each trip around the niddy noddy, so every time say if I start up here, every time I wind the yarn and end up back here, that makes 1.7 meters of fibre. So once I have finished wrapping and skeining up the yarn, I can count how many strands I have here and multiply that by my 1.7 to know how many meters I have. Hopefully that was an adequate explanation. It's a bank holiday weekend again here in the UK. Easter was very late this year, so it seems like we have a lot of holidays piled up onto each other. That means I've got 2 days off, and I am hoping tomorrow to get cracking on a couple of little gnomes, and included in that I'm going to hopefully knit up these 2 little samples of fibre that you would have seen in my last spinning segment, and a few people have commented that they would be interested to see how these knit up. So hopefully next time I record I will be able to show you. So I spun these, this is from the same bumper fibre, but I spun them with slightly different intentions, and hopefully I'll be able to share with you whether these yarns look very different or whether they look fairly similar once they are knit up. So yeah, I just thought I'd update you because a couple of people have been asking whether I have knit those up yet. Finally, on to knitting. I have I think 2 finished objects to share with you and 3 works in progress. Now when I say I think, I finished something, and that was a commission for someone as part of my work life, and I'm pretty sure I recorded a little video about that project before I gave it away, and if I have, that will be inserted here. As you can see, I'm here in the shop, but I have finished a little commission project that I've been working on for a few days, and it will be going off to its new home before I manage to record a episode with all of the rest of my projects. So I thought before it disappears, you might like to see it. I've been working on a lovely little jacket for a baby. I've made the 3 to 6 month size, and this is the pattern. It's a free with purchase pattern from Stylecraft, and it uses their head over heels sock yarn. It's just a really simple raglan cardigan with a couple of little buttons on the top. There are 3 sizes in this pattern, so 0 to 6, 6 to 12, 1 to 2. The 1 to 2 apparently goes into 2 balls. The other 2 sizes, you just need 1 ball of the sock yarn. And here is my version of the jacket, and it's turned out super cute. I love this. So I used the same colourway as recommended on the pattern, only by coincidence. I just really liked this when I was looking through my cubby of sock yarns, and this is the Sugarloaf colourway. It's got these really nice long repeats of pinks and blues and purples, and then on the back there's a big broad stripe of yellow. So yeah, I really enjoyed knitting this. I just finished it off with 3 little blue buttons on the front there. I love working with 4-ply. I know obviously for garments and things it doesn't grow as quickly, but I just love the fabric that you get with 4-ply, and I'm really pleased with how this little jacket knit up, and hopefully my customer will be too. It was knit entirely on 3.25mm needles, including the button bands. There was no changing. Often you go down a size for the ribbing, but it wasn't suggested in this pattern, and so I didn't bother doing any of that sort of shenanigans. And obviously it's a 1x1 rib, so that pulls it in quite a lot anyway. So yeah, I don't think there's much else to say other than it's a really simple, super cute pattern, perfect for working on in here. while I've got groups, because it's knit in pieces, and it's just stockinette stitch until you get to the armholes where you do a little bit of decreasing and shaping. So yeah, perfect for picking up and putting down while I'm in here, and I can definitely see myself making 1 or 2 more of those. I think I'll pick out a couple more colours from the sock yarn cubby and maybe make up a sample for the shop, and I'm pretty sure once my customer sees this, she'll be happy for me to knit her a couple more if I have time. If I forgot to do that, then this is the finished object that I have to show you this week, and it is a pair of socks. These are my blueberry waffle socks, knit from some beautiful yarn that was gifted to me by Caroline, who is Colourful Creativity here on YouTube, and she is also a hand dyer extraordinaire. Has a lovely web shop where you can go and check out and purchase some of her yarns. She's having some renovation work done at the moment. I'll leave a link to where you can find her below, but if you hop to her shop and there's nothing there or it's closed, I know that there's going to be some time in the not too distant future where she doesn't have access to her shop stock. So if you hop on over and the shop's closed, then pop back in a week or 2 and she'll be back open and running. So yeah, I have 2 lovely socks. I had got some really fun pooling with this colourway. I keep getting the colourway wrong, sorry Caroline. I think it is pumpkin spice, I think. And Caroline said that this was one of the first iterations of this colourway that she dyed. So if you purchase this yarn from her now, your results may vary. Because I believe she has tweaked the colourway somewhat. But I haven't knit a pair of blueberry waffle socks for ages. It's a free pattern by Sandy Turner, I want to say. If that's wrong, I'll put it on the screen. Over on Ravelry. It's just this lovely, soft, squishy, ribbed texture. And yeah, I haven't knit a pair of these for ages, but I loved it, and I just love the effect of it. So there'll probably be some more blueberry waffle socks in my future. I knit these on my standard 2.25mm needles, and I cast on 64 stitches, and I popped in a fish lips kiss heel for these. Then I pop in an afterthought heel, but for this yarn that was sort of flashing and pooling anyway, there was no kind of regular pattern repeat to interrupt, so I just popped in the heel as I went along. Okay, so works in progress. I shall stick with socks as we are on that topic. I started a new pair of socks last week. If you watched my Wonderwall vlog, you will have already seen a little peek of these, but this is the first time they are officially featuring here on the videos. I'm keeping these in this tiny little bag that I purchased at a local craft fair, made from a recycled Welsh wool blanket. And these are a pair of socks that I am knitting for a friend. She purchased a skein of by Miranda May, who is a local indie dyer out of Cardiff, and I stock her yarns in my shop. So she purchased a skein of this lovely Nutcracker colourway, which is gorgeous, pinks and blues. There's some purple, there's some sort of creamy undyed parts, and there's also some gorgeous flashes of grey, which I didn't really notice in the skein, but you can definitely see in the fabric of the sock. There's every now and then, you see here and here, there's some flashes of a lovely grey colour. So yeah, this is my progress. Lost my train of thought there. You're just talking about sock. This is not rocket science. So I've finished the leg. I cast this on to take to Wonderwall with me in case I had any time to do a bit of knitting. This is the first time I am knitting socks for this friend. I've cast on my standard 64 stitches because I think that does tend to fit most people. 2.25mm needles, and I have put in a heel flap and gusset slip stitch heel, and I've just done the heel turn, so I've got that awkward kind of sock mouth going on. I quite often do a short row heel, but as I've not knit socks for this friend before, the heel flap and gusset gives a little bit more room around the ankle area, which I know fits a lot of people well, so I thought I would give that a go and see how we go. So yeah, this yarn is knitting up beautifully, and I have a lovely little moose progress keeper on there. You can see him hanging out. That was a gift from my lovely friend Erin. Hi Erin. So not much more to say about those. I'm hoping to get the foot finished by this Wednesday, and then I can get my friend to try these on for fit. She has a similar size foot to mine, one size smaller. So yeah, I'm going to do a best guesstimate and get her to try them on before I actually kitchen of the toe, and hopefully we can get an idea of fit, can make any adjustments and carry on from there. This project bag is so sweet. It's perfect for a pair of socks, and I love the colours. It's definitely fast becoming a favourite for me. Second work in progress is living in my oyster catchers bag, which is one that I made myself and I have shown off many times before. And this is my hand spun shawl. So this is the project that I'm working up from that lovely lamb wennog fibre that I'm spinning up. And the pattern is the Hilltop shawl by Helen, who is Curious Handmade, and the pattern was gifted to me by my lovely friend Sylvia. Hi Sylvia, if you're watching. And last time I showed this, I was where this progress marker was, so I'd knit from the top to there. So this shawl has grown by a lace repeat and a garter repeat, and the rows are getting quite long now. Very difficult to show because it's kind of scrunched up on the needles. I'm knitting these on a pair of higher sharps, 3.75mm, and this, yeah, I think I waxed lyrical about this before, how buttery soft this lovely fibre is, and I think it's perfect for the simple garter and simple lace pattern repeat on this Hilltop shawl. I've got a fair bit of my first bump of yarn to go, so I'm hoping to knit through this in the next couple of days, see how far I get, and then this project will go on hiatus for a little while I spin up the rest of the yarn. Never thought I would be knitting a shawl from yarn that I made myself from fluff. So yeah, I think this is going to be a lovely special project when it is finished, and I'm excited to get back to working on that one this week. And finally, this is my oldest knitting work in progress, and this is my Derby cardigan, which is a pattern by Martin Story for Rowan, and this pattern book was a free with purchase pattern book to accompany the release of their hemp tweed chunky line, which the yarn no longer exists in chunky form. They do still have it in double knit, but I knit a jumper version for James a couple of Christmases ago, and I immediately cast on for a cardigan version for me. So there's the jumper version, and I am working up this lovely cardigan version. So it's an all over texture pattern, and this week I managed to finish both sleeves. I've been knitting the sleeves concurrently, so the marker shows where I was last time I showed this to you. So as you can see, I finished the top of the sleeve shaping, the same on the other one. So this part of the sleeve was a bit of a pain, only because I was working on this in the evenings, and I had to concentrate on obviously changing the pattern, decreasing it as I was decreasing the stitch numbers, and there were several evenings where I managed to knit one sleeve, and it only happened on one of the sleeves, and it seemed to be the same one every time, where I did a section and it was completely wrong. I had to rip it back and do it again. So yeah, there was a couple of evenings wasted knitting time on this one particular sleeve. The other one seemed to go smoothly. I'm not sure what I did. I was picking up and knitting 2 rows on one sleeve, 2 rows on the other. So I think maybe I got distracted at some point and did 2 rows on one, crossed them off on my little tally chart that I keep, without actually doing them on the second sleeve. I'm pretty sure that is what happened. So yeah, sleeves are done. Obviously this is not the time of year that I'm going to need a big sloppy chunky cardigan. However, I'm going to keep plugging away. There's still a lot of knitting to do. I started with the sleeves, so they're the only pieces that are complete. Hopefully by the time I get it finished, we'll be back into big chunky cardigan wearing weather. And in my wardrobe I definitely have need for a big sloppy cardigan. I have a couple of big sloppy jumpers that are shop bought, and I now have quite a few lovely sweaters that I've knit for myself. I have 2 cardigans that I knit for myself, but both are more kind of transitional spring autumn cardigans, and this is going to be a nice winter cardi to snuggle up in. So I finished those sleeves, and I have started on the back piece. So obviously the back piece is the biggest piece. So I've got the ribbing done and the first couple of pattern repeats, and I've worked out I think I need to do 4 more of these pattern repeats. You can see these sort of like textured diamonds kind of make a pattern repeat really. So I need to do 4 more of those before I start for the armhole shaping. This works up really quickly, and actually this back piece I did the ribbing in one evening, and I did those 2 pattern repeats in a couple of hours and in another evening. So when the stitch count remains the same, I seem to be able to fly through this, and obviously chunky weight yarn knits up really quickly. I'm knitting a much smaller size than I usually would for me, just going by my experiences of knitting James's jumper. A couple of years ago I knit the 42-inch chest for James, and it worked up quite sloppy, and actually when I tried the jumper on, it fit me quite nicely. So I'm knitting the 42-inch chest, and usually I would knit myself between a 48 and a 52, depending on whether I want no slightly negative knees, no ease, or positive ease for me. So but I know that this should fit me quite nicely, and because this there's knits and pearls in this texture pattern, it creates almost like a ribbed effect, so there's quite a lot of give in the fabric. So yeah, the yarn is Rowan Hemp Tweed Chunky. As I say, unfortunately it is discontinued, but you may still pick up some in your local yarn shop, or maybe on eBay, places like that, Ravelry, D-Stash. And I'm knitting shade 6, which is the Rioja colourway. I'm keeping that project in this gorgeous giant bag, which I purchased from shop Luli a couple of years ago. This is actually the first sweater size bag that I ever purchased. Sorry for the jingling. I've got this Doctor Who charm that I keep on the bag. So I've got TARDIS and some various other bits and pieces on there. So it jingles a lot when I move it around. Yes, I am a Doctor Who nerd. That's it. I've come to the end of everything that I wanted to chat to you about this week. Thank you so very much for joining me. I hope over the coming, I'm going to say 2 weeks, because I may not see you next week, although as I say, I'm hoping to record a shorter video from the shop just to let you know what's happening shop wise, because I haven't done one of those for a little while. But yes, it will be a couple of weeks before I do my next works in progress video. So until then, I hope you get to do some of the things that you enjoy, and great big woolly hugs to you all. Bye for now.